Hi everyone, it's Vlad here. I'm going to give you a quick look at the Blit engine, since I think it's the part of the double pixel engine that interests most developers. I'm going to give you a look of it, how to get it up and running quickly. Okay, let me just show you our library. What matters here is this idle animation. I don't know if you will be able to see the animation smoothly because of the frame rate of the movie, but believe me, that's animated. The only thing that matters here is that it is exported with this idle. Okay, it is exported as idle. Okay, no more FLA work is needed. We just have an FLA, and we have this bold pixel test. If you remember from the previous video, this is the document class of the FLA file. Okay, so let's get it working. What we need to start up the engine is to start up the engine, literally. I'm going to give it the dimensions of our FLA file, but it can be anything. Okay, it's up to you. And this code is not exactly the same as I wrote some days ago. I just put everything static inside the engine, since we don't really need an engine, an object of the engine. Okay. So now the object has created all the objects. The engine has created all the objects we need to run the Blit engine. So now we are going to create the objects that are our part as developers. Okay. So first we are going to create a layer. Think of the layer as a holder for objects. Okay. The layers, just a quick note, the layers were created to allow things like scrolling, special effects, and things like that. But the code we created for scrolling, which we needed, which we actually used in a project we are still working on, only scrolls for one side. Okay, so instead of giving you a piece of code that will only do a quarter of what it was supposed to do, we decided that the public version would not have the scrolling. So now layer is just a holder. It doesn't have anything else. It doesn't do anything else but to hold entities. Okay, so we will ask the engine to create a layer, and we have the layer. Now we are going to create an entity, and the entity is going to be created inside the layer. So create. Okay, this means the entity is inside this layer, which is running inside the engine. Okay. What we are going to need next is the animation we will run. So we are going to call it idle. Idle animation. Okay. This is a uint, because what the texture manager will create from this create collection from movie clip, it will just return the index. It will not return the actual collection. Okay. What this means, what we are going to do is to pick the idle. To pick the idle that lies in the library. We are going to pick each frame of this idle animation, and we are going to save it as textures that can be then used by entities. Okay, this is basically what will happen. So right now we have an entity that can use something. For instance, we could pick up our entity and say we want to use the texture collection idle animation, and that we want to use the texture frame 1. This means that the entity would only show the first frame of the animation, so it would not be an animation but just a still frame. You can obviously use this for many things. Okay, But that's not what we want to do. We want to create an animation, and we want it to loop. We could play it and it would just play once, or we could loop it, okay, and we are going to loop it using the idle animation. Okay, we could give a function for every time the animation ended to call that function. We are not going to use that now. Okay, so right now we have an entity that is running the idle animation inside a layer, inside a running engine. Okay, what do we need to show this? We need two things. First, we need our game loop. Okay, so we are going to create a public function which is an update. This update is basically our game loop. So we are going to ask our loop tool, our loop that lies in the toolkit. Sorry, not here. We're going to ask loop. We are going to add a function, and the function we are going to add to the loop is update. So now every time a frame runs, an enter frame event runs, we are going to call this update. Inside the update, we are going to tell the engine to update. Okay? But the engine doesn't have a place to show. So besides this, we need to add child. Remember, this is the document class, so basically it acts as your main movie clip, your stage. Okay, you're going to add child engine render window. This render window is nothing more than the bitmap object where the bitmap, the final arranged bitmap data is drawn to. Okay, but in order for the loop to work, we need to do one more thing in here. If you remember correctly, we need the manager. The manager inside the toolkit to start up the toolkit using this, the document class in this case, as the main clip. Okay, so let's quickly run it here. We are starting up the toolkit because we want to use the loop. Okay, we are starting up the engine with the dimensions of the engine. We are creating a layer where we are putting a entity. Okay, using the texture manager, we are creating a texture collection which we called idle animation. Okay, and last but not least, we are asking the entity to loop this animation we just created. Okay, we added the bitmap of the engine to the document class, which means it will go directly to the stage, and we are going to loop this update so that the engine updates. Okay, this update runs this one, which runs this one. Okay, just one more thing to look cool. Let's put the entity in the middle of the stage. So 256 entity.y. The pivot point is roughly above his head, so we are going to call 120. Okay, so this is startup, this is creating the objects you need, this is handling the entity so it draws something, and this is system stuff such as updating and adding the bitmap. So let's run this. I'm going to, and here my Flash player is not that good, so I'm going to run it directly here. Okay, here is the guy. I hope you can see the animation looping. Okay, so I hope this was a cool intro to the Blit engine. You can now do whatever you want with it. Have fun.